and they're trying to push down from Izium towards Mariupol. And Mariupol's importance is, amongst other things, is because it's the southern anchor of this big push north from Mariupol, south from Izium, to join up their forces. It'll take some time to do, but if they can defeat the Ukrainians in Mariupol, they can release probably half the force they've got there, at least 6,000, maybe 8,000 troops, to then start to push north in this big offensive that is building up.
Does Mariupol look increasingly likely to fall?
Yes, it does. Most people think that it's down to hours now, not days. We can see that the Ukrainian forces are now in two pockets, pushed up against the sea. Their last redoubt may be the Azovstal steelworks. They seem to have retaken bits of that. But the Marines reportedly are now out of ammunition. The Russians are saying that over 1,000 have surrendered. That's not been contradicted by the Ukrainians. And so I think now you can tell when fronts crack. I think the crack has occurred, and I'd be surprised if Mariupol is not in Russian hands by this time tomorrow.
And all of this is going on, you know, with various troop movements happening over the course of last. So we've got some fresh pictures, I think, of some of these troop movements that have been witnessing over the last day or so.
Yeah, I mean, the Azovstal steelworks, I mean, biggest steelworks in Europe, you can see why it's such a fortress. You can see why it becomes the Alamo for the final elements of the Marines, the 36th Marine Infantry, who look as if they've had to give up on that now. And Mariupol has been devastated. I mean, there is nothing left of it as a city. It was a city of 500,000 people, almost 500,000 people. Now, we don't know how many civilians are still there, probably about 100,000, if however many of them are alive. And about 4,000 Ukrainians have defended it for 46, 47 days.
I wanted to ask Michael as well about the importance of morale in all of this, because I guess most of the last week or so has been talk of morale of the Russian troops probably being low. If they're now successful in seizing Mariupol and other places, maybe the morale will shift in the opposite direction. How big a factor is morale in these battles?
Well, it's a huge factor. I mean, morale is the hidden element in any battle between two groups of forces. And although it is a big blow to the Ukrainians to lose Mariupol, nevertheless, it's been such an epic of this war from day one until probably tomorrow, that I think that the cry will be, remember Mariupol, as they fight south of Izium, around Slaviansk, and in those pockets.
And then just finally as well, I wanted to touch on this topic of phosphorus bombs. We touched on it a little bit yesterday as well, possibility of chemical weapons being used. If the West were to prove that, which is still a long way off, and wanted to up their military assistance in response, are there lots of options of better weapons that could be given that haven't been given yet, that would also mean they don't have to enter the fray themselves?
Yes, a lot of weapons the West has held off giving because they think it would be a bit escalatory. But undoubtedly, the Ukrainians need more tanks, they need more armoured vehicles. They still could do with more aircraft. Whether MiG-29s is the right aircraft is a different issue, and more anti-aircraft facilities. So I think there's quite a lot more. If the West was sufficiently outraged by another threshold being crossed, say use of chemical weapons, then I think more lethal weaponry, long-range weaponry, might well be given to the Ukrainians. The problem would be not giving it to them, but getting it there in one piece so that they could use it.
Mike, I might get your reaction to this. A little bit of breaking news that's just crossing. The UK has said that it's added 206 new listings under the Russian sanctions regime. We need to get some more details of that, but I guess, you know, Michael, this isn't saying that we're absolutely not importing any oil or gas from Russia immediately, nor is it sending some of the weapons that you just mentioned, but it shows the UK continuing to increase the pressure week by week, day by day.
Yes, there's more sanctions that could be taken. If we're prepared to hurt ourselves now, sanctions have got to the point where they will start to hurt. If we care enough, then we'll start to impose those sanctions, we'll ratchet it up, we'll take the pain, and it will actually cause some quite great distress, I think, to Putin's leadership.